Good morning, everybody. Boy Rios here, the only host people care about, and the face of the franchise. Carlos jinxed us last week, so I'll kick him off the show. No, I'm kidding. He's at the game, so hopefully he doesn't jinx us again. He's usually pretty. We usually win when he goes to the games, so hopefully he brings us some good juju. If not, you won't see him for a while. But hopefully, you guys are having a great weekend. It's Football Sunday, my favorite day of the week. And we have a pretty good one lined up today between the 6-5 Texans and the 6-5 Denver Broncos. But before I dive into the football, let me talk about our other sports a little bit. Shout out to our Houston Dynamo. They had lost a tough game yesterday, but hey, man, they were the worst team in MLS last year. They were in last place, and they hired Ben Olsen, and now we made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. It's a similar trajectory that the Rockets and Texans are on. We, got the right coach in place, had changed the culture, had a few key pieces, and we've, sped up the process of this rebuild, which is great to see as a fan. Um, I expect them to lose a couple key pieces, namely Coco. He's probably going to go to Europe, but with that money, hopefully, we can follow the Inter Miami route of, getting some big name designated players to because yesterday what I noticed we have lacked in attack. We have a great midfield, backline's not too bad, but we're just missing something up front. So hopefully they can use that money to beef up our attack and take that next step and try to make it to the MLS final. Rockets lost a tough one yesterday against the Lakers, but it was pretty funny seeing Ime and LeBron kind of go at it a little bit. That was kind of cool to see. Hey, he got ejected, but I'm not a lip reader, but I can kind of piece together what he said, and hey, it's pretty funny. But yeah, anyway, going into our Texans, man, last week was pretty heartbreaking. I was at that game, and man, just a couple more inches, it'd have been a tie game. But we move on. So this week we face the Denver Broncos, who are on a 5-game winning streak, which is pretty impressive, especially considering how they started the season. They started, 1-5. Most people had written their season, myself included, had written their season off. But a couple things that have helped them, turn it around. I think less reliance on Russell Wilson. They got Javonte Williams early on in the year, but he didn't look like himself. But once he started getting healthier, it definitely helped improve their offense. Took a little bit of the pressure off Russell. And their defense has been playing lights out. They've been holding their opponents to 16 points a game during this 5-game win streak. I think the most points scored against them was 22, which, if you can keep your opponents in the teens, it makes it that much easier for offense to put up points and win the game for you. So, looking at the numbers for the Broncos, so I've seen a lot of graphics and people, been going at me a little bit for calling Russell a game manager. But if you look at the numbers, he is a game manager. He's averaging 165 yards a game, which, it's a passing list, very, very pedestrian. 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. Pretty much just in 5 games. It's not eye popping. He's basically they're asking him to not to do too much, take care of the ball, pick up key first downs, and score in the red zone, which is game manager. It's not it. I know it has a negative connotation, but it doesn't. It's hey, some teams, that's how they operate. They just need a game manager and let their defense, do the work, and that's what's been working for them. That's why they've won 5 in a row. Besides beating some teams with backup quarterbacks, they did beat the Chiefs, they beat the Broncos, they beat the Bills. Like they've beaten some, teams with winning records. So I give them their flowers. Their defense is playing lights out. They've been pretty impressive, especially with the 15 turnovers. And I think the last 4 games. That's they've been getting to the quarterback. They've been attacking the ball. Like I said, old school mentality. Impressive to see. Um, As far as Broncos' key injuries, they don't have any key injuries. No homecoming for Kareem Jackson, which I'm a little glad. He got suspended for violation of the NFL rules policy for helmet to helmet contact. So I'm a little glad not to see him this week. I don't need him taking an unnecessary shot to CJ. As for the Texans, we finally have our defense fully healthy for the first time. We've had a lot of injuries, especially in the secondary over the last few weeks. So it's good to see all those guys back there. So hopefully we can see what they can do today because our secondary has been getting torched. We're 24th in the league. We've been giving a lot of points, a lot of yards. So hopefully we can, change that this week. And on offense, our biggest missing person is going to be Dalton Schultz. I was at the game last week and I noticed he wasn't out there a whole lot. And I was thinking to myself, he must be hurt because he's normally out there more, especially towards the end of the game. And then came out, he had a hurt hamstring. So he's out this week. So they had said, so Brevin Jordan's going to have to step up. They had mentioned this week he's going to see an increased workload. So hopefully, I picked up in fantasy. So I'm really hoping he has an increased workload. Because last week I didn't see us attack the middle of the field too much. I appreciate the aggressiveness, but sometimes, take what the defense gives you, pick up those chunk plays in the middle of the field, and, just keep the chains moving. So we'll see how they address that. Now, going on to the Texans, we are same record as Denver, 6-5. We are fighting for our playoff lives right now. We win today, we have a 54% chance of making the playoffs. We control our destiny at that point. If we lose, we drop down to 17%, which basically means our fate is in the hands of other teams winning or losing. And you don't want to be, you don't want to fall that, you don't want to go down that route. You want to be in charge. You want to be in control of your own destiny at this going towards the playoffs. And so, Texans offense, man. What I'm at a loss of words what to say about CJ. What hasn't already been said, man. He's been such a revelation after years of dismal quarterback play. It's refreshing to see a rookie light up the league. He's second in passing yards. He should be able to pass Sam Howell soon because he has a bye week coming up, I believe. So he should be able to pass him up pretty soon in passing yards. But he's top 5, if not top 10 in most statistical categories for quarterbacks, and he should continue that today. As good as Denver is playing, the way to beat Denver is you got to put points up early because they're not going to win in the shootout. If it's low scoring, you play into Denver's hand because they're going to play ground control with the running game, and you don't want that because we don't have a great running game. We don't have a running game to run out the clock. So as I expect, see at least 30 pass attempts today from CJ. Now, speaking of the running game, I am interested to see how they split the running back carries. Last week, it seemed like they were trying to get Pierce going early, and it just wasn't working. I've been saying for weeks, I think Singletary should be the guy that's in charge. It basically gets the bulk of the carries between the 20s. With Pierce, being your short yardage situation guy or goal line guy. So I'm interested to see how they split those carries this week. Denver is a pretty good run. Their run defense is, it's okay. It's not, like I want to say our run defense is a little bit better than theirs. I'm curious to see, how Bobby draws up the game plan this week. I would personally like to see a lot more Singletary, but also in the passing game because he's a pretty good pass catcher. Because I think having him out there changes the dynamic because it could either be a run or a pass. Versus if you see Pierce out there, they're going to run the ball. Pierce is not. He can make some catches. He made some catches last week, but it's not really his strength. So I think to keep the defense on their toes, you want Singletary out there, so they're not sure if there's going to be a run or a pass. But I'm curious to see how Bobby calls the game this week. Hopefully, he doesn't call it too conservative. It's something I've noticed. Whenever he gets aggressive one week, he dials it back a little bit. So hopefully, he doesn't dial it back too much. You don't want to be too conservative because most of our losses, besides last week, they came on being too conservative. The Falcons, the Panthers. So hopefully, they've learned from that and keep trying to, take some shots down the field, be aggressive, keep the defense on their toes. So as far as Vegas odds, we are 3-point favorites. We were favored last week, which, was a little concerning because anytime we're favored, we typically lose. So hopefully we can, beat that this week because, man, I can't take any more losses. And according to ESPN, we have about a 55% chance of winning, which again, they favored us last week too. So I was like, we'll see. Hopefully we can beat that. We can beat that trend of, losing when we're favored. But before, I get my final predictions for today's game, let me go around the league a little bit. Let's start with Thursday's game. Finally, we had a good Thursday night game. It's been like the low point of football this entire season. Those Thursday night games, they've just been dismal. But this week, man, it was a very good game. It was back and forth the whole game. Man, we got to do something about these referees, bro. They got to hire some full-time referees or, hold them accountable because I lost count as far as how many flags they threw in that game. If someone wanted to play a drinking game taking shots, they would have died of alcohol poisoning because, man, it was a flag on every other play. It was a little hard to watch at times. But other than the flags, it was a really good game. It was pretty high scoring. I'm gonna give the Cowboys their flowers. They've beat a team with a winning record. They got a tough schedule coming up, so we'll see if they can keep that going. Man, Dak's playing like an MVP right now. I'll give it to him. They've beaten a lot of bad teams, but he put up numbers against the Seahawks. Look at that, they're above 500. They were in the playoff hunt. They're kind of like us, they're gonna have to basically win out to try to make it in because they're playing a tough conference and tough division, the same division as the 49ers. So they got their work cut out for them. We're going into the other early games this week. This week we have Colts and Titans, a divisional game. So Titans not really playing for much. Colts, right now they are in the playoffs because they have the tiebreaker over Houston. Man, as much as I dislike the Titans, I hope they can pull off the upset. I don't see it happening. I would love to see it just for our sake, but being realistic, the Colts, they're playing pretty well. And they're missing Jonathan Taylor, but Zach Moss is still one of the league's leading rushers, even with Jonathan Taylor back. So I expect the Colts to have an easy day today against the Titans. Hope I'm wrong, but I got the Colts winning that one. Next up, we got the Falcons and Jets. Oh man. Uh just because the Jets are abysmal on offense, I'm gonna go Falcons on this one. The offensive coordinators realized, I got a stud running back in Bijan. Maybe I should use him a little bit more. So I'll expect to see a lot of Bijan today. So, but Jets, they have a pretty great defense. But I think it's just that offense is really holding them back. So I'm gonna go with the Falcons on this one. Next up, we got the Lions and the Saints. My brother-in-law is a huge Lions fan, and one of my good friends is a Saints fan. I don't know why, but yeah, the Lions look pretty bad on Thanksgiving, but they've had some time to look at some game film, try to correct some stuff they did wrong on defense. And the Saints, I know Olave was in concussion protocol. He's supposed to play today, but I don't know how much he's going to play, and that's going to affect the Saints offense a lot. So I'm going to go Lions on this one. Next up for the early games, Chargers and Patriots. Patriots made a move at quarterback. Zappe is starting over Mac Jones, and I don't see how that's an upgrade. Oh man, how the Patriots have fallen. Yeah, my 2 cents. I think this is Belichick's last year. For his coaching tree has been pretty bad, and honestly, the Patriot way was really just Tom Brady. Just his play elevated everyone around him. He took pay cuts. Like Tom Brady was the Patriot way. He benefited from having Belichick, but a lot of that was just really Brady, and we're starting to see that now. Chargers, man, I think their coach is fired too at the end of the year. They have too much talent to be, to have what the record is, and missing the playoffs and barely winning it. Like they have too much talent. You have the quarterback in place. Keenan Allen's a stud. You got Austin Eckler, who's one of the top running backs in the league. You got star players on defense. Like they should be a lot better. So I think a lot of it's coaching. So I think once they make a coaching change, you'll probably see a different Chargers team next year. But as far as this game, I'm gonna go Chargers. Next up, we got Cardinals and Steelers. Cardinals, they're like I mentioned a couple weeks back, they're a lot better than what their record says. Their defense plays hard. It helps having Kyler back. He extends plays by a lot. He's able to make plays with his feet. He's stepping his game up. They might actually hold on to him at the end of his rookie contract. And the Steelers, it's another team that's kind of held back by the quarterback play. They have, again, great defense, but the quarterback play is just their one saving grace is the running game. That two-headed running back committee they have of Jalen Warren and Najee Harris has been really saving their offense because Kenny Pickett can't really move the ball. As far as this game goes, I expect I'm gonna go Cardinals on this one. I think they pull off the upset because I think their defense is going to get tired because their offense is going to be struggle to sustain drives. And you see what happens when the defense gets gas. The offense starts to put up points. Last one of the 12 o'clock games is Dolphins and Commanders. So the Dolphins, they're fully healthy and they get Devin a chain back, which is I have him in fantasy, so I've been waiting for this guy. He was winning me a lot of games. And then when he was out, it hurt a lot. So hopefully, we'll see what kind of workload he gets this week. Um, so when it comes to the MVP race, it's a quarterback award, obviously. But honestly, I think if Tyreek Hill breaks 2,000 yards receiving, I, I would argue he would deserve to be MVP because we've never seen that before. And who knows when we'll see that again. I mean, it's mind boggling. He's on track for 2,000 yards, which, as long as he stays healthy, which is, I mean, crazy. And then you got Jalen Waddle, who will be a wide receiver one on most other teams too. They have a really potent attack, passing again, a really potent passing attack. And then you add in, Raheem Mostert, who's 31 years old and just leading the league in touchdowns. So, I mean, who saw that coming? I didn't have that on my bingo card for 2023. And then with Devin Chainback, it adds a new wrinkle to their offense. I mean, it's like basically a NASCAR offense. Their defense kind of needs to step it a little bit. They've given up some plays here and there. And again, the Dolphins are kind of similar to the Cowboys. They're a team that they haven't beaten anybody with a winning record yet. So I wouldn't call them frauds per se, but I think once you get to the postseason, you're going to play winning teams. You're going to play teams with winning records, unless you're playing, a team from the NFC side, which more than likely one of those teams that makes the playoffs is going to have a losing record. Which, but yeah, anyway, as far as the Commanders, they're a tough team to figure out because they traded their top two pass rushers. They still won a couple games, but I mean they struggle on defense because again, when you trade your top two edge defenders, you're going to struggle on defense and on offense. I've watched a few of their games. It was Sam Howell. He leads the league in passing, but it's like a lot of checkdowns, and yards after catch. So it's not going to be a close, and this is going to be Miami. They're going to get ahead early, and I don't think the Commanders have the firepower to keep up. They'll probably be over by halftime. So I'm going to go with Dolphins in this one. So for our later games, we got Panthers and Buccaneers. Divisional games are always tricky. As bad as the Panthers are, it's still a divisional game. I don't expect them to win. They made a change of coach, which is kind of that organization, and it's a trip. So the owner wanted Bryce. The coaching staff wanted CJ. Obviously, the coaching staff got overruled. They went with Bryce, and then they fired the coach because he couldn't win games with the quarterback that he didn't want. Make it make sense. I don't get it. But I digress. Thank you, Carolina, for taking Bryce because we got CJ, and we are more than happy with him. As far as this game, Buccaneers are playing pretty well. Surprisingly, Baker's had a pretty decent season. A bunch of them dislike the guy. He's been putting up numbers and putting up wins. And it should be another win for them as well because the the Panthers are just hapless on offense. They can't get anything going. Next up is probably the game of the week. So Texans Broncos, I would say, would probably be the second best game this week, just because of the implications. And it's going to be like a playoff atmosphere. The same could be said for this Eagles and 49ers game, a rematch of the NFC Championship game last year. I know the Niners had a pretty bad taste in their mouth because they lost Purdy last year in the NFC Championship game. And real quick, shout out to some of the guys in the comments. Going on, Chad. Going on, Blaze. But yeah, so the 49ers, they lost Purdy last week. Last year in the NFC Championship game, and you basically had a revolving door of guys trying to play quarterback, and the Eagles took advantage of that, and obviously, made it to the Super Bowl. And there's been a lot of chirping back and forth on both sides, all off season, during the season, this week. It's been fun to see. So this game, man, it has again. This is also another one with huge playoff implications because the Eagles are 10-1. They're 10-1, but they're favored to lose. I think I read somewhere this morning that that's the first time in NFL history a team that's 10-1 is not favored to win. That's bizarre. I know the Eagles are winning ugly, but they're winning. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win by 50 or by 3. A win's a win. This is not like the college football playoffs where you got to win big to get in. The NFL, you win by an inch or by a mile, it still counts the same. And I think this game means a lot more to the 49ers because they're trying to keep pace for that number 1 seed. And, a little measure of revenge against the Eagles. But, man, I know the Vegas odds are betting against Philly, but I'm not. I'm gonna go with Philly on this one. They're gonna. It's gonna be a close game. It's gonna be a lot of back and forth. I think they win ultimately by last second field goal, but it should be a really good game to watch. Next up, we got the Browns and Rams. The Browns are playing Joe Flacco. Man, who had that on their bingo card? And the Rams, they getting their running back last week. It helped them out a lot. I went against them in fantasy, so it sucked for me, but it was good for them. And they're also a team that's kind of in the playoff hunt. So I think this is a must-win for game. Cleveland has been one of the surprising teams of the year, regardless of all the people that they're missing. Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, all the other injuries. They still keep winning games. I mean, they're winning ugly, but again, win's a win. This one's a tough one to figure out because I think this one means a lot more to the Rams, but the Browns defense has been, you know, phenomenal. So I'm gonna go Browns on this one, and it's kind of might end the Rams playoff hopes after this loss because there's a lot of teams in the hunt with similar records to theirs. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I got Browns in this one. Next up, we got our Sunday night game, Chiefs and Packers. Not sure why this is a Sunday night game. Come on, NFL scheduling committee. Let's not let AI pick the games anymore. Let's let human beings pick the games because primetime games this year have been bad, and there's been plenty of opportunities to flex some of these badder games out, and this would be one because the Packers, they one week they look good, the next week they look terrible, and the Chiefs, man, I, you, I have Patrick Mahomes and I have Kelsey in one of my fantasy leagues, and I was expecting them to, put up like light at the scoreboard week after week. It's been the opposite. They've been having some struggles. I think with the Chiefs, one of their big problems is their receivers drop a lot of passes, and the running game. Pacheco's been playing decent. He's been playing much better than you expect from a seventh rounder. He's been playing he's been holding his own. They're kind of tough to figure out. Like this again, they're still one of the top teams in the AFC, but like they've had some puzzling losses. But I think this is a get right game for them. I think they put, especially playing in prime time, I think they put it together and they it ultimately come out with the W. Packers, they're missing Aaron Jones, and whenever he's out, it's kind of tough for them because AJ Dillon's a different running back than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones can he can run it on the outside, run it the inside. He can catch passes out the backfield. Versus Dylan Jones, AJ Dillon, he's more of a downhill runner. So they probably struggle a little bit to move the ball. So I think the Chiefs probably. I'm gonna predict a blowout on this one. And then we got our Monday night game, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I know the Bengals lost Burrow a couple weeks back, and they had come out and said in press conferences that they're not planning to change their offense. So you want to continue to run the same offense. I mean, I don't see how they can do that. I think you got to play to your quarterback strengths because the guy that got Browning is not. He's not Burrow. Like he's not gonna be able to make the same throws he does, extend the plays like Burrow does. So hopefully they built up the game plan around what he can do well, and try to focus and move away from things that he's not able to do. I think they should probably lean a little bit more on the running game with Mixon. As far as Jacksonville, I mean, Cincinnati's defense is you can run on them, and they are susceptible to some big plays, but Trevor Lawrence doesn't really push the ball downfield. It's a lot of short and intermediate throws. But the thing with his team is that those guys get a lot of yards after catch, especially with Etienne and with Calvin Ridley and Ingram. As much as I would love to see Jacksonville lose, I just don't see how the Bengals can pull it off. And which sucks. I have speaking about fantasy, I have Jamar Chase, and man, he went from getting me like 50, 20, 30 points a game to I'm lucky to crack the teens now. So yeah, I'm gonna go Jaguars on this one, which hate saying that. All right, so final predictions for today's game. I think it's gonna be a close game. It's because the way our defense give a lot of plays. So if we can, I need to see it before I can say our defense can shut any quarterback down. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, we're 24th in pass defense. If we can contain the running game, keep the score close. I think we can pull off the win and go to 7-5. I'm gonna go Texans 30, Denver 27. All right, guys, that'll do it for today. We'll end this a little bit early, so that way if you guys can set your fantasy lineups. If you need to make a beer run, food run, got plenty of time to do that before game starts. Appreciate you guys checking me out today. We will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure it'll be live or recorded, but as always, make sure you subscribe to us on X, subscribe to us on the gram at Just Fans Pod, and on YouTube as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. Please, feel free to share this, comment, show it to your friends, and as always, I appreciate you guys. You enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and go Texans, baby.